almost every fundamental principle of life can be expressed in two opposite ways. There are those who say that to attain the highest wisdom, we must be still and calm, immovable in the midst of turmoil. And there are those who say that we must move on as life moves, never stopping for a moment, either in fear of what is to come, or to turn a regretful glance of what is gone. The former are as those who listen to music, letting the flow of notes pass through their minds without trying either to arrest them or to speed them on. Like Chuang-Tzu's perfect man, they employ their minds as a mirror. It grasps nothing, it refuses nothing, it receives but does not keep. The latter are those who dance to music, keeping pace with its movement, letting their limbs flow with it unceasingly and unhesitatingly as clouds respond to the breath of the wind. The one seems to reflect events as they pass, and the other to move forward with them. Both points of view, however, are true. For to attain the highest wisdom, we must at once walk on and remain still. Consider life is a revolving wheel, set upright with man walking on its tire. As he walks, the wheel is revolving forward with him beneath his feet. If he is not to be carried backward by it and flung to the ground, he must walk at the same speed as the wheel turns. If he exceeds that speed, he will topple forward and slip off the wheel onto his face. For at every moment we stand, as it were, on the top of a wheel. Immediately we try to cling to the moment, to the particular point of the wheel. It is no longer at the top, and we are off our balance. Thus, by not trying to seize the moment, we keep it. For the second we fail to walk on, we cease to remain still. Yet, within this, there is still a deeper truth. From the standpoint of eternity, we can and never do leave the top of the wheel. For if a circle is set in infinite space, it is neither top nor bottom. Wherever you stand is the top, and it revolves only because you are pushing it around with your own feet. That is Walking on a Wheel by Alan Watts. Yet another one of his essays. Or perhaps 2 paragraphs. What would you call that? A blurb? It's interesting to think that how long we want to cling to something, how long we want to hold on to the circumstance of our life, the moment that we're in. And in doing so, we immediately lose it. I think that analogy of the wheel, the first analogy of the wheel, how you only stay in the one place if you continue to walk. As soon as you try to speed up, you're going to fall off the wheel. As soon as you try and cling to the one spot, the wheel's going to turn and you're going to fall off with the wheel. And you think about that a little bit and you ponder on that and you think, yeah, wow. How many times in my own life have I tried to grasp that feeling? Or I've looked back in my life with regret, or I've looked forward with anticipation, and I've lost sight of my footing and I've fallen off both ways in that. And you think, wow, yeah, that's absolutely true. But then he follows up with a more enlightened idea of the wheel. From the standpoint of eternity, we can never do leave the top of the wheel. For if a circle is set in infinite space, it is neither top nor bottom. Wherever you stand is the top and revolves only because you are pushing it around with your own feet. So now we've got an infinite wheel in all directions. It's a sphere in infinite place. And you think, wow, okay. So now can I hold on to a moment? Because then it only moves if you think about that a little bit. And you think, okay, is my job here only to propel this ball around in motion? Because no matter where I'm standing, I'm going to be standing in the singular spot, which is the present, right? It's an analogy for the present. And then you realize that because it's a sphere, there is no backwards or forwards, right? So there is no past, there is no future. There's only you. and this ever unceasing present. And then you realize that no matter if you look back with regret or if you look forward with anticipation, it doesn't matter because you're not going to fall off. You're still always going to be in the same place, the present. So you think about that a little bit longer, right? And you think, okay, the only time that I'm taken away from this point is in my own imagining. It's my own thoughts. And so you realize that the only thing that stops the ball from revolving around is you. And you think, right. So the only thing in my life that can change or make a difference or whatever else you think might be, can't be, because it always is just me right here in this moment. So once you kind of realize that, you think, what else is right now? And then you start to think, and it makes me think about a little bit another one of the stories Alan Watts talks about, which is the idea of if now is the eternal now, if it's always been the present, there's no past, there's no future. Everything in the past was always now. Everything in the past was always a present, right? And so in that same sense, when the universe began, it was now, right? It was the present. And so if it's still the present now, it means that the universe just is beginning now. It's experiencing itself now. We're present. It's happening right now in this moment. It's still present. And so I think the logical next question, right, is to think, okay, well, what the fuck does that mean for me in my life, right? Well, it means a few things. I think it means that the stresses that you impose upon yourself are always going to be self-made. Because when you close your eyes and you go to sleep, they disappear, right? Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But perhaps you're not asleep. But I think that, okay, so what's the next logical step after that, right? What's the next step after that? It's like, okay, so there's no past, no future. It's just me. It's just present. It's always present. I can't cling to something because it disappears. I can't long for something because that's not. Neither of those things exist. I only have right now, this moment here with me as I speak these words. Think about that. Reflect that. Say that out loud right now. It's just me right here. It's just me right here. Even saying that, it's disappeared, right? And you think about that and you just start to realize, and your eyes start to focus less and less and less on things around you. And you start to realize, whoa, I'm here. And I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we start to think, wow, how little time have I spent here? How little time have I spent actually here? And then you think, what are these things that take me out of here? And why do they do the things that they are? And then you think about, what are these things outside of me that are, seemingly created to take me out of the here and now? Who could I be if I was here and now? Which is a funny thought because that's the future, right? Again, we're talking present. But if all you ever have right now is the present, it means that that future self never exists, right? And so the only time it exists is if you have that right now. And so I think the only time that things actually change is if you make that decision right now, because it's always right now. And that's with people get confused when they think, oh, I'll come around to it when I come around to it, or I'll make that decision when I make that decision. It's like, no, the same way that you can drastically impact your life today by, robbing a bank. You can drastically change the trajectory of your life by killing somebody. You can change the trajectory of your life by taking your own life. Something drastic like that. The same can be said of the opposite. There's always something you can do right now that can change your entire life's trajectory right now, this moment. Because there's plenty of things you could list off right now that could just ruin your life. So in the same guise, there's plenty of things that you could list off right now that can just improve your life. It's always just a choice. It's always just a decision, because it's only just now. There isn't any other time. And you think, well, my past self, I was younger, I made mistakes. Sure. But when you made those mistakes, it was now. And now, this sounds very, new agey, and it can sort of bleed into a little bit of, you could run a few different ways with it, right? You could think nihilistically about it and be like, well, then nothing matters, right? And then you could think a little bit about that and be like, well, nothing matters. Great, I'll live it up. And so you got to think as well as that, okay, well, look, to navigate in this life, I need to have some semblance of an idea of my future self, right? Where I want to be, my direction for myself, to navigate for myself in my life. And then obviously my past is a reflection of myself, who I am now. And it's a good marker for where things should be in the future, typically, because when we sort of plan ahead, we're looking at things that have happened in the past, right? And so if there's none of those two things really, if you really think about it, it's only now, it's only present, then I think, maybe this is just me optimistic, maybe I'm just too positive, is that when you realize that, anything's possible. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Really. Genuinely. It's simply a matter of you being here right now. I think that's one of the limitations that we put upon ourselves when we went to this dreamlike state of a life. Is that not only did we forget that we dream this life, we also forgot that there isn't a sense of future or past or present or anything like that. And I think, I'm not obviously an expert in this field, but people talk about how gravity manipulates time, and they talk about how a bunch of other things do too. But then it's like, time in what sense? It's such an interesting thought, right? And there's so many ways you could go about taking that. And I wanted to share this with you because I think while there's so many ways you could go about it, so many ways you could think about it, do so, right? Don't not. But I think the most important thing to utilize right now is to really think about, how long have I not been here? And you think, what? How long have I just not been present with myself? Because if you start to think about this, think about this, draw yourself closer, and really sort of block out all this noise that is everything else, and you start to think, wow, hang on, I'm this person right here, right now, in this place that I'm looking around. Look around you right now. What do you see? What is it around you right now? What can you see around you? Who are you right now? Open your phone right now and flick on the camera and face it towards yourself and look at yourself for a second, or look at your reflection if you can see it. Perhaps not a mirror, because they talk about you opening portals and stuff, right? So don't do that at your own detriment. But yeah, it's a very interesting thought. How do you utilize that? What's a good tool for that? I think realizing that all the power is in your own hands right now. Your past isn't synonymous with who you are now, because you are who you are now. nor is it an indicator for your future, because you are who you are now. I mean, you can utilize it, right? And it makes sense to do so because patterns precede themselves over time. And if we don't heed the lessons of the past, we fall victim to repeat them. So that makes sense, right? But things only change now because that's the only time they have to change. And if you're feeling stuck in life, if you're feeling life isn't where you want to be, it's probably because you haven't been in the present. You've been either in the past or you've been in the future too much. Or those ideas of such things, right? So I think use this as a bit of a calling to realign yourself, recenter yourself, and be like, whoa, hang on. Why is my life the way it is right now? You know? And could it be better? Probably could. How could it be better? By realizing where you are right now. And I think you realize where you are right now is by being honest and truthful to yourself. And that's how you sort of be present. Cut out the distractions. You hear it time and time again, right? And you think, yeah, well, do it for a couple of days. See what happens. Do it for a week, a month. I mean, you don't know how much you could change. I think that's the raw potential of human. And I think that's one of the champions or things that you should lead yourself by is that I don't know how much raw potential I could have within myself. Anyways, appreciate your time. Thank you.